be September. District announcements. Today wrapped up our new teacher orientation, where we had over 70 new staff members participating in sessions that covered all the basics of our district level systems and processes. The excitement and enthusiasm in the room was evident, and we look forward to the great work they will accomplish in Troy. The first day of school is quickly approaching. Each day a new video is posted to our Facebook page, counting down until the first day of school. We've heard from the Troy cheerleaders, our new board member Donnie Miller, and new school team principal Amanda Clopo. Head over to our Facebook page and follow us for our back to school countdown. Public input on agenda and non-agenda items. On agenda and non-agenda items. The Board of Education recognizes that it serves the residents of the enlarged city school district of Troy, New York, and so we encourage public attendance at our meetings, and we also welcome your comments. We ask that you continue to limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes so that everyone who wants to speak has an equal chance to do so. If you are unable to finish your remarks during the 5-minute time frame, you can supplement them in a written statement to the board clerk. The board regrets that because of time constraints, it cannot respond during the public comment period to the questions raised. We know that all speakers will display the courtesy and respect in their remarks that is emblematic of our Troy community, and we appreciate your input. Is anyone here to speak?
I would like, excuse me, sir. I would just like Mr. McShane, I know there was some concern and some possible confusion about some things here at the middle school start here, so we'll certainly listen to if anybody else wants to speak. I asked Mr. McShane to just kind of talk first, so maybe clear up some of the confusion.
Please state your name for the record.
Ian McShane, middle school principal. Thank you, everybody. I apologize for that confusion. I know I've spoken to some of our families that expressed some concern over the weekend and then early this week. We, after really contemplating the best way to get our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders back into school, knowing that our 6th graders are coming in for the first time ever, brand new building. Many of our 7th graders weren't here last year, and there was quite a few of our 8th graders who haven't been here since March of 2020. We decided that, in order to get them back in the beginning of the school year, get them used to the building, meet their teachers, meet their classmates, get them really comfortable with the building, we decided to not introduce lockers at the very beginning of the school year. I just want to reiterate to our families that that was not intended to be more than a week. If it's that long, we'll be surprised, and then we'll get our students back into the lockers. It was really just, we know that it's going to take them some time to get used to the building. It's going to take them some time to get to know their teachers and their classmates. We wanted to take one small thing off their plate, what we thought was a small thing at the time, off their plate. Once they get comfortable with the building, we'll get them back in the lockers. And we did purchase mesh bags so that they can transition back and forth during the day. So they'll be able to utilize both as soon as we get in the lockers, which, as I said, shouldn't be more than a week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I know you got orientation downstairs.
Is it okay if I head down there now?
Yeah, thank you for coming up. Sorry, sir.
No problem.
Please state your name and your address.
So my name is Van Fraunhofer. My address is 72 Oneida Avenue. I'm a parent. I have a child entering the 6th grade. I have a child in 8th grade, and I have a child who just graduated last year from Troy High School and is in college now. I'd like to address the board with some concerns that I have about the modality of teaching that's going to be happening this year in both middle school and high school, as well as in the elementary schools. And I address you as an educator. I'm an educator in the SUNY system. And I'm fully aware of the challenges of different modalities of teaching in terms of fully in person versus fully remote or some hybrid modality. And over the last 18 months, I have engaged in both fully remote, hybrid, and I'm now back to fully in person for some of my courses. But I'm still also offering remote and hybrid options. So I teach remotely, I teach fully in person, and I have some hybrid modalities that I work with as well. My concern, and personally as an educator, I by far prefer fully in-person modality, right? When it is safely implemented, and when we can safely do that. My concern right now is that, I want my children to be back in school full in-person education, but I don't believe it's safe right now. Because not only am I an educator, I'm an immunologist. So I have a good understanding of the conditions that are in our community right now. And if you look at the conditions with COVID-19 in our community right now, we are at high risk and high vulnerability. That's what we were classified by the State Department of Health. We have a positivity rate of 6.2% today. We have had 24 new cases today per 100,000. We have an average, a rolling average of 30-day average of about 38 or 39 new cases a day in Rensselaer County. Those numbers are actually going up. The hospitalizations are going up in the area. We have a new, more highly transmissible virus that is the dominant strain of the virus in our community. That being said, the conditions right now with COVID-19 are trending in all the wrong directions in terms of the numbers, right? And we are actually dialing back the modalities of protection that we had in place last year. When we ended the school year last year, the numbers were going in the right direction. We had vaccines rolling out, people were getting vaccinated, the rate of vaccination was going up in our community. That's pretty much leveled off. Right now we're at 64% of our county is vaccinated with at least one dose, but we're slightly less than 60% for fully vaccinated individuals in our community. And the rate of vaccination in Rensselaer County has pretty much leveled off. So what that tells us is that, or what that tells me as an immunologist, is that the people who wanted the vaccine, almost everyone has got it. And the rest of the people are probably not going to get it or unlikely to get it unless they are coerced in some way or mandated to get it. Now in the SUNY system, for a fully in-person modality, students are required to be vaccinated. They have to show proof of vaccination to be able to come on campus. They haven't done that for the staff yet, but students are required. I understand that that's not your role as a Board of Education to require vaccines for the students or even for the staff. I suppose you could do it for the staff. But the New York State Department of Education has let you down by not giving you guidance or creating mandates for students who are eligible for vaccines. My kid has to prove he's been vaccinated for over 8 different diseases before he can step foot in this building. Why is COVID-19 one of them? I don't understand that. Now, I know that's not your purview, right? But the State Department of Education mandates over 8 different vaccines for students to come into public education buildings. For those students who the vaccine is available for, I don't understand why the State Department of Education is not mandating that, right? It's a fully approved vaccine for 16 years and older. So everyone who's 16 years old and older, the New York State Department of Education should require that student is vaccinated to come to in-person modalities. Or schools should have to provide remote or hybrid situations because they have forced you into a situation where you're going to have buildings, where you're going to have a mixture of vaccinated and unvaccinated people. And you're probably not even allowed to know who that is, right? So you are in a situation where they're telling you you should do fully in person at all costs, basically. Now, the CDC has outlined a series of recommendations. Number one is promote vaccination. You can't mandate that, and I understand that. That's not your role as a board, right? But you have mandated masks, and I applaud you for that, because masks do work. They are very effective. But they're also way more effective if they are used appropriately, right? When everybody in the building is masked, right? As well as with the layers of multiple strategies for protection, like social distancing, okay? Is there a timer that I can?
Yeah, you got about 30 seconds.
All right. So,
Thank you.
what I really want to advocate is providing at least a hybrid modality to reduce the numbers of students in classrooms so that we can do that social distancing. You can't do it. And right now, the CDC still recommends over 6 feet of social distance for non-vaccinated people. So you're not going to know who in the classroom is vaccinated or not. So who has to be 3 feet or 6 feet apart? How do you know that? Right? So I really would like to advocate offering modalities that would allow you to create that that appropriate layered approach. I can't understand why the State Department of Education is not allowing the dialing back of precautions when we are in a very high-risk situation. Really nothing has changed for the unvaccinated or the people who are not eligible for vaccines, other than the virus is even more contagious now, right? So we are not going in a positive direction in terms of COVID-19. We need to really start tightening down our precautions, not rolling back those precautions. And so I'm here to advocate for at least a hybrid modality for my child, because my child is going to be forced to be in a building where I know there are unvaccinated people with a highly transmissible virus. And I know that we're all concerned about the health of our children, and we all want our kids back in school. I want my kids back in school. I want my students back in my classroom. But I only want it to be there when it's safe. And I'm an immunologist, and I can tell you right now, it's not safe.
Sorry, sir, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Please state your name and your address.
Hello, I'm Lisa Dunham, and I'm at 3 Watson Ave in Detroit. I also am a parent, and I'm going to be the opposite side. I'm opposing, obviously, the mask mandates and vaccinations, if it ever gets to that. I'm the whole other end where I think I kind of agree with him, where maybe we should still have some kind of virtual learning for those who do not feel comfortable coming to school. But as a mother of children, I also feel, with the lack of guidance also coming in, that it should be left up to parents to decide. And I have 4 children. I have a child in middle school. Last year, she's a high honor roll student. Her grades dipped to completely failing. And eventually, when things started to pick back up, I got her back into school. Her grades got back up. And so I'm here speaking for her. And I would like choices as a parent of if I should cover my child's face, what to put in her body. And I'm sorry, I'm not an immunologist like you are, but I'm coming here speaking for my child. Since there's no major guidance, as of June 24th, New York State ended the pandemic. There's no more pandemic. There's options for people who don't feel safe. Like he stated, you can get the vaccine, so either they work and you feel safe bringing your children, or they don't work, which leads us back to what do we do now? I would love for my child to be in school. I have younger children, one of which I have personally pulled out. My older child, obviously she's older, she's been here, she has friends, she wants to be here. And I don't want to pull her out of her school system here, put her in a new school, homeschool, if that's not what she would like. So all I'm coming up here stating is for, for choices. Obviously, we're both going to be on opposite sides here. The best is let each parent choose what they feel best for their child. And I'll leave it at that. If there's any updates coming, I don't know how recent these updates are. I know there's still been no official guidance, like he stated, from the Board of Education, the Board of Education or the Health Department. And like I stated earlier, New York State ended the state of emergency because of COVID. So now I think the choices should be back to the parents and let's get our kids back to normal, please. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Thank you for your input. At this time, the superintendent is going to update us on the reopening plan.
Thank you. Some of the things that were mentioned by our 2 speakers will be addressed in here. So the board has actually a front and back page which will be for the community as well starting tomorrow after tonight's presentation. This will be on the website. We're also putting together a quick 1-page reopening plan at a glance, which has forwarded a little more succinct thing that will be on the website, as well as tonight's presentation. So try to get as much information out there as we can. Our mission statement, I like to start every one of my presentations with that the Tri-City School District will provide a strong educational and social foundation to graduate all students college and career ready. That's what we're trying to do each and every day here in Troy, and we've done work that I'm really, really proud of. Our graduation rate last year jumped to 90%, as we've already celebrated at one of our board meetings. Thank you to everybody. I always say it's not just Mr. Mariano and his staff, but that's a pre-K-12 accomplishment, so I thank everybody that's involved, from faculty, staff, administration, students, parents, and the school community. But we make all of our decisions based on that mission statement and trying to do what's best for each and every student to reach their full potential and achieve success. So our reopening plan, again, this page is here, is based on the CDC guidance. It's based on the Department of Health guidance. We meet with them weekly. We met with the Rensselaer County Department of Health again today. Both speakers were correct. The New York State Department of Health has not given as direct guidance as they did last year, but we are still working through both the CDC and Rensselaer counties, and New York State Education Department did come out with a guide that was pretty much based on the CDC, which is what we used. So, I mean, almost every group from CDC to the American Pediatric Association, or I think it's American Association of Pediatrics, said kids need to be in school, and I couldn't agree more with that. There were some kids that were successful in a remote or hybrid setting, but in-person learning really is what our kids need. There were many kids that we are now working with to catch up that did much worse than they typically would do, and now have some gaps that we have to help them with. So getting everybody back in person is our main focus. It's what is needed for our students, for the majority of our students, and it's what this plan is based on. There is a full remote option. It's going to be provided by BOCES. It's only for students who present documentation of medical necessity. So there are some students in our district who have severe medical issues that put them at risk, and so we've been in contact with them. There was a survey that went out last week or the week before. We've been in contact with them. There's a couple in each school, and we're working with their doctors actually. And so for those that have that need, they'll be going to BOCES. They'll commit for the whole year. It will not be a Troy teacher, but they'll get the instruction they need remotely. For students who are officially quarantined by the Department of Health, so we will have cases this year. I don't think anyone disagrees that this virus has gone away. We will have cases, and as we have them, as the Department of Health officially quarantines students, either the positives or contacts, we will provide synchronous learning opportunities and meaningful contact with a certified teacher for those students who are officially quarantined. Right? It will not be the whole-scale situation like we had last year. Again, we did more last year, I think, than any district did around here as far as putting our instructional program together. And we're proud of that. And as we're talking to districts this year, I think even that third bullet is more than a lot of districts are offering. So we're proud of that. And our teachers have been fantastic to work with and to keep making decisions in the best interest of our kids, which we appreciate. The social emotional needs has been documented as well. We've talked about it here many times. We talked about it at our administrative meeting on Monday. We got all the administrators together for our back to school kind of training, all day training. And the social emotional needs that the students and families have right now, and Mr. McShane alluded to it a little bit when he was here. We will spend the first few days or weeks or whatever it is making sure our students and families know we're here for them, help everybody get reacclimated, help everybody get re-engaged. As I've said before, and Mr. McShane said, there's some kids that haven't been in a school building since March 2020. So it's going to take a little while to get used to the school day again, to get used to their expectations. And so we will make that a priority to help our students and our families get reacclimated to the things we're having. Our health and safety parts of our plan, so masks will be required. We had that decision, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe more, but that is now, the new governor, Governor Hochul, has required that in all school buildings for all individuals. So, to our second speaker, that's beyond our control at this point. That became a mandate from the governor that masks have to be worn inside the buildings by everybody, students and staff, visitors, whoever's in the building at all times. Mask breaks with social distances will be provided. So we did talk to the administrators. We talked to them once or twice a week as well. We had a meeting this morning to talk about how those mask breaks will be divided depending on how many kids are in the class, but being strategic about making sure that any mask breaks also come with some social distancing, so we're not putting anybody at risk. CDC has actually recommended 3 feet of social distancing now. It's changed from 6 between students, and they also say when and where possible. So again, the CDC's guidance is when they talk about when and where possible, that they do not want that social distancing or any social distancing protocols to keep us from bringing all of our kids back to school, and that's where we are focused as well. So we can easily do 3 feet of social distancing. Again, in some of the classes that have lower enrollments, we will spread them out even more than that and probably be close to the 6 like we were last year. But we will follow that mandate where we can. There'll be always deep cleaning of all the spaces. That'll happen every night. The high touch areas will be cleaned throughout the day, just like we did all throughout last year. Our maintenance and custodial staff did a fantastic job, and they've been working super hard this summer to get the rooms ready. And we've still got about a week left for them to keep that rolling. Students and staff will have access to hand sanitizers. The district purchased that last year. We'll do the same again this year. It'll be in every classroom, it'll be in the cafeteria, it'll be throughout the building, in the offices, and those kind of things. So it'll be readily available for students and staff. And signage will be displayed throughout the school, promoting general hygiene, hand washing, using hand sanitizers, reminding the students and staff the proper way to do all that to keep people safe. Our school lunch program, so students in pre-K through 1 right now, we're going to have those eat in the classroom. We had everybody eating in the classroom last year at the elementary level. And some of the teachers were speaking to their principals and said it really worked well for the younger kids. So we're going to try that at least at the start of the school year. That pre-kindergarten through grade 1 will be served in the classroom. Students in 2 through 12 will go to the cafeteria. They will have assigned seating so that we can keep track of who's sitting next to whom. In case contact tracing is needed, in case the DOH is asking for that information. Students will be allowed to remove their mask only once they're seated and they begin eating. And then, in talking to the principals, lunch is a half hour for the kids, but almost all of them are finished eating within that first 15 minutes. So as soon as they're done eating, the students will be reminded to put their masks back on. And they'll be reminded to follow all safety protocols while they're in the cafeteria, including not sharing food or drinks and things like that. Transportation, this one's also a little different from last year. Remember last year it was prescribed pretty specifically from the DOH saying we could only fill the buses up a third, which was an issue. And this year that's not a requirement. So buses will be full to capacity and have to be if we're going to bring all of our students back. Masks will be required at all times on the bus. There will also be assigned seating, like I just said for the cafeteria, there will be assigned seating on the bus. So students will be, again, told where to sit. And that'll help with, again, contact tracing if and when needed. Windows and roof hatches will be open, weather permitting. That adds extra ventilation inside the bus, which we talked to DOH about this morning, and they were really recommending that. And just like the classroom, daily cleaning and disinfecting, as well as cleaning of high-touch surfaces after each run. We don't have our own buses, as most people know, I think here. We contract out with Durham, but they are certainly on board with all of our health and safety protocols. At the high school, it was pretty successful last year. I think it was, I would call it a hit with almost everybody. CDTA provided our high school transportation last year instead of Durham, and we're going to do that again this year, and we're going to actually expand it to a couple of neighborhoods that they couldn't get to last year. Masks will be required, and students will also be required to follow the CDTA's health and safety protocol. Testing protocols, contact tracing. The first bullet is huge. All students showing any symptoms, signs and symptoms of illness should be kept home from school. You know, there was a time a few years ago, and when I was growing up, you know, you were told to tough it out, get to school, you know, get to work. That is not the case anymore, and so we'll be asking for parents' cooperation with that. We ask our staff to cooperate with that. If you're feeling any symptoms of any illness, especially any of the symptoms listed for COVID, then you stay home from work, you stay home from school. This second bullet, it's an interesting one, and I think it's going to help us this year with some of the students who got quarantined and had to stay home waiting for test results. So if a student does show symptoms of illness while at school, we will now have the capacity. Now, it's not going to happen until probably the end of September because we're waiting for the testing machines to come in. Rensselaer County got some federal money just like school districts did, and they're going to purchase a testing machine for each of the schools in Rensselaer County. And it's what we call COVID point of care testing. So if a student goes down to the nurse with symptoms of COVID, or symptoms that could be related to COVID, our nurses will be trained to give it's a rapid test, but it's not the old rapid test with the nasal swab. It's a different kind, but they'll have a video and they'll get trained on it. I don't know too much about it, other than I'm told it's 15 minutes before the results come in. So we'll know immediately whether those symptoms really were COVID related or not. If it comes back negative, students will be allowed to return as soon as their symptoms clear up and they're well enough to do it. If they're positive, then we'll notify Rensselaer County and follow all their recommendations for quarantining and contact tracing. That will all obviously only be given with parent permission. So again, we're probably a month out before those machines are in, but during that time, we'll get permission slips out to parents, and I assume parents will want to do that. Remember, last year the rule was if you had any of those symptoms, you had to go home and you had to stay home for 10 days unless you went somewhere else and got a negative test. So now that test can happen right in your child's nurse's office and here at school. I think it's a real benefit and a convenience that I think most parents will appreciate, but it will require parent permission. Athletics, activities, after school programs, so they're going to resume. We're trying to have as normal a school year as we can. Athletics have already started, our fall sports, football, volleyball, cheerleading, and soccer, golf, cross country. Two of them are listed as high-risk sports. Those are football and volleyball because it's indoors mainly. The after-school programs, I know some people are interested in a starting date for that. So we're looking at probably early October for our after-school programs at all of our elementaries. But we will be resuming all of the regular clubs and activities and athletics. All the students and staff must wear masks while indoors or on school buses and maintain appropriate social distance to the extent practical. You know, you're playing soccer and you're obviously at times going to be right next to your opponent, but on the sidelines and before and after games and things like that, coaches are already aware to keep the protocols that we have in place during the school day. The athletes who play high-risk sports, will be tested. So that's part of the CDC guidance as well. We will encourage, Mr. Reinish and I are going to have a meeting with the coaches. I've already talked to the coaches a couple of different times of, again, football and volleyball. We'll be meeting with the parents of those sports athletes, and we'll discuss this with them. We're going to encourage them to get vaccinated. Some districts are actually requiring vaccinations to participate in high-risk sports. We're going to encourage it, but the people who are not vaccinated, well, actually all the athletes will also be tested because there are some vaccinated people who are breaking through and having cases. So the high-risk athletes will be tested once a week. Pretty standard. Most of the districts are doing that. I was on a meeting with all the suburban council superintendents on Monday. Everybody is testing once a week, which we will do as well. And again, that one will also have parent permission to do it. But if you're not going to get vaccinated or give permission for testing, that will be the time your son or daughter will not be able to play the high-risk sport. So I'm going to talk to the parents of those sports again next week. And visitors and building use requests. So again, we're trying to get back to as normal school year as we can. We are going to welcome visitors and volunteers back into our schools, but they will need to follow all of our protocols. They also will be screened on the way in. So we have a new Raptor system that we've had now about a year and a half. The questions that everybody had to answer last year are built into those systems. You know, do you have any symptoms? Have you been around anybody that's tested positive? All of those things. So they'll have to get screened answering those, and they'll obviously have to wear a mask to enter, and they'll keep the mask on the entire time. We'll also have our building use requests. We have outside groups that, before COVID, would use our buildings for anywhere from the gyms to the weight rooms to the swimming pools, the fields, and other places. So those outside groups have started requesting again, and we're going to allow them back in, but again, they need to follow all of our safety protocols. I said before, this plan is based on guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Department of Health, and the New York State Education Department. The second bullet's important. It's subject to change. I mean, the first speaker talked about the trends that are going on. If and when the situation gets to a point where Governor Hochul or the New York State Department of Health, I mean, Governor Hochul came out and again made the mask mandate in her first or second day on the job, and she's also been saying more to come. I mean, one of the things that she said recently, and I think the legislature is supposed to act on this week or next, is the open meetings law. Remember, we were allowed to have remote meetings for a while. The talk is that she may bring that back for certain meetings. I don't know if school boards will be in that mix, but she is talking about allowing that for certain meetings. But depending on the situations, depending on the trend of COVID positives and all those situations, and depending on what the governor and the New York State Department of Health end up doing, they've also talked a little bit about vaccinations and testing of faculty. So again, if that comes from the state, then we will have no choice but to participate and apply. The last bullet is the most important one to me. We are really, really excited. We've had a summer of planning for this year, and we're excited for the school year and can't wait to see our students and staff. Ms. Rounds in the good news talked about the new teacher orientation. So Dr. Watson met with them yesterday, and I got to meet with them this morning. It's just a great morning to be able to interact with them. 80 something, I think it's a record for us how many are in that auditorium as new teachers right now, teachers and TAs. But interacting with each and every one, and trying to get to know them, it really makes you excited for the school year, and they're excited, and so are we. So it's going to be a great year. It's not going to be without our challenges, but we proved last year that this school community can handle anything when we're doing it together, and we are going to do it again this year. Our motto stays the same, that we can, we will, end the story, and I think we've proven that. Questions or comments? Again, this will be on the website tomorrow, as will this, and at some point tomorrow, the one-pager will be there as well.
I do have one question.
Sure.
Right. So as far as the high-risk sports, the athletes playing high-risk sports, My name is Tony Strode, by the way. I'm a parent also. I have a kid here in middle school and in school 18, and I'm also a respiratory therapist. So I am on the front of the front line. My question is that for kids that are playing high-risk sports, if they get vaccinated, will they still be required to test weekly?
That's what we went back and forth on, and I think we ended up today saying yes. Most districts are doing that because of the breakthrough cases.
Okay.
And I think the second reason, sir, is I felt a little bit strange about separating vaccinated and non-vaccinated
Right.
kids, and I don't want there to be, not that there would be, but I don't want there to be any bullying or arguing about, hey, you're vaccinated, why aren't you, and that
Right.
kind of stuff. So if we just send everybody through the testing lines only once a week, I think that clears that part up too.
Okay, good. And I want to put that out there that I am fully for required testing each week, vaccination or not.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate it. Other
So,
questions?
yeah, about the point of care testing.
Yeah.
So say a student shows symptoms, but the parents haven't agreed to point of care testing, what's the follow-up?
Yeah, so then it would revert back to last year's process, which is they have to go home, they have to stay home for 10 days, or go get their own test at their own doctor's office or at, the urgent care or something like that. So it'll revert. In fact, the first month, that's a good question, the first month of school before we get these tests in, that's what will happen anyway too.
So we're not
Anything
taking,
else?
no, we're not taking temperatures when they come in anymore.
No, we're not doing that. In fact, that came right from the DOH as well. We managed it last year when about 60% of the kids were coming in. I think with everybody coming in, I don't think we had one case of somebody getting the temperature and going back. So it was really turned out to be more a waste of time than anything. So we'll monitor it. That's why that first bullet I pointed out, the parents are going to have to do that piece at home and not send their son or daughter to school if they have any symptoms.
Does anyone else have any questions for John? Thank you, Mr. Carmel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to Dr. Watson, Mr. Oakdale, and me. Did a good portion of that. I know, that's why I thank them. Mr. Mayor said I didn't let him talk. I forget sometimes once I get going.
Action items, superintendent recommendations, human resource staff matters unclassified to classified. Consent agenda, motion on the floor for consent agenda items 1 through 10 unclassified.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda items 1 through 7. Motion on the floor.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent recommendations programs, consent agenda items 1 through 10.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Superintendent recommendations business finance, consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Board resolutions, consent agenda items 1 through 5.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Future meetings. I know we have the meeting September 15th here at the middle school at 6 o'clock. October 6th is again here at 6 o'clock. We will begin our town hall meetings. Kickoff will be at School 14, October 20th at 6 o'clock. Can we talk about our committees? Because we need a policy meeting, right?
We'll have that, I don't know if we can have it, we used to have it right before the board meeting. It might be a little bit long to do that, but we'll have it sometime in the next couple weeks.
Okay, maybe we could like tie it in like on some night when there isn't anything going on.
Yeah.
So we can sit down. I think we sent out a note asking if anybody was interested in different committees, so we have to be careful that there's not too many of us on a committee. So, and I know if somebody is interested in getting off a committee and going on a committee, because there's a lot of subcommittees that aren't board committees that all of us are on in the school. So we'll send out something in the near future to make sure everybody is all set with everything. Motion on the floor to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Have a good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.